भाई सीधा करना अपने आप को। स्वागत है आपका कौन बनेगा करोड़पति में। देवियों और सज्जनों,
क्लैप फेमस हो गई मेरी।
हाँ चलो स्टार्ट।
क्वेश्चन क्या था?
Anshul's 1/4 experience with notice period.
I've served notice period in one company twice, so beat that. I have switches, I have retention, I have rejoined company, so I can talk about all these things.
चले स्टार्ट करें?
Yes, bro.
ठीक है। Hello and welcome back to our channel Engineering Podcast. And today we are going to continue our discussion where we left it on the last episode. We're talking about our first job change. And to start the discussion, first I would like to understand or like to ask you that what was it that triggered you to make that first change? And I will start with Anshul this time. Anshul, what was it that triggered you to make that first change?
So there were multiple factors to be honest, and one of the biggest factor was, and it remains constant. I mean, it's not just for the first switch; it is after that as well. So
with you, we all know that.
Yeah. So it was more like I was not doing anything new. So for like last 2.5 years, I was working on almost similar things by now, and I wanted to challenge myself. That's a heavy word to use for first switch, but that was the case.
No, I
And
think
second thing
just to interrupt you, the most the word probably we were expecting from you is like better opportunity, right? That is what we usually hear from people.
So better opportunity is an encapsulation of better salary, better work, better whatever. Yeah.
Better everything.
So yes.
It's a drop down when you put your resignation in any system. There's a drop down of reason, and better opportunities is I think the most selected reason.
Better opportunities, career growth. So yeah. And so first thing was, yes. So I wanted to do something different, something new. And that was one thing. Second thing was I wanted to try my hands with a product-based organization. So Zensar is, service-based. And I wanted to try something in product, how products are made and how, things happen there. Third and most important thing was Agile. So I was introduced to Agile towards the end of my tenure in Zensar, and I was fascinated by it, and I wanted to be in a company where Agile is being followed, and I wanted to contribute and learn more of Agile. So that was these 3-4 were the major factors which triggered my first move.
Great. I mean,
Ankit?
specifically, I know about Agile. That I know that you have a lot of experience with it, and we'll have separate discussions around that. So, but these are actually very good reasons to think about it. What about you, Ankit?
So for me, there were two things. In TCS, I was always looking at getting exposure in good technologies. Right, more competitive environment was one of the key factors that made me work harder. And working in TCS 2-3 years down the line, I felt that it was not competitive anymore. Probably not for me. I needed more challenging opportunities. And like many of the other folks, right, the thing I was waiting for in TCS was on-site opportunities. And I think in 3 years' time, I did get one for Canada. But ultimately, I just talk to myself as to, is this what I want? Will I get some challenging thing outside of India? For some people, it does work, but the ultimate work would remain the same, right? It's the same client, same kind of technologies. It will not be that challenging for me. And then I decided that working for a bank it's kind of a mainstream, right? If you work on the client side itself, it's kind of a mainstream, and there the people that get in, they are a level above, and that is where I wanted to compete with, and that is where I decided, no, it's time to leave TCS now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's also a very fair reason. And I mean, very similar reasons for me as well. When I made my first change, so I was working with KPIT Cummins with SAP Business Objects for almost, I think, 3.5 years, where I was working, across industries, but in the same product. So basically, one BI product, one technology, one tool, and getting exposure to the tool in very detail, but actually not getting much understanding of the business. How a particular domain basically is. How technology is actually used to solve business problems. So now it has been triggered. Now you want to make the change. Now the next important step is the preparation. How did you prepare for it, Anshul? Your first change back then.
Yeah. So preparation wise, I was more. There was some in last video also I mentioned I had some amazing seniors in my team, right? So I spoke to them. I discussed, okay, what should I prepare, and I got this very awesome advice. Whatever is written in your CV, you should be able to answer that first. Don't go for learning like rocket science overnight. Just prepare properly whatever you're writing in your CV. So whatever was there in my CV, I made it, 100% sure that I understand it in and out. And any question from this area, I'll be able to answer. So that was first thing which I did. Okay, be it your application architecture, be it technology that you have mentioned, everything. This was one first thing which I started with. Second thing was I didn't prepare too much. I have seen people reading a lot of theoretical books and blogs and stuff. That is I don't know, some it might be helpful for some, but I never found them very useful unless I put it into use, a practical use. So I did POCs on, let's say, WCF was a in thing at that point of time, right? So I did few POCs in WCF. I started creating some sample websites just to understand, how page lifecycle work, for example. So I was preparing in that mode. First thing was whatever is written in my CV, I should be able to answer those things properly. Second was practical knowledge, not just theoretical, high level understanding. I might be able to prepare only 5 topics, but I'll make sure those 5 topics I know them very well. Exactly like what you should do in engineering, right? Out of 5 units, we'll do 3, but we'll do those 3, properly. So that was my idea of preparation. Yeah.
Okay. And what about you, Ankit?
So for me, I just focus on two things. One is the know-hows of what you have done in the past 3 years. So basically, you should be able to explain what you did, why you did it, what technologies you used, and the fundamentals behind it. And the second thing that I focused on was the fundamentals of uh, the OOPS concepts and the data structures and DBMS. The things that we learned in college, that is something I wanted to revisit and then clear my all the fundamentals that are out there. Those were the only two things that I focused about at that time. And probably we are very immature as well during that time. We don't know. It was the first interview, right? We have heard from many people that these are the things asked in the interviews and XYZ, and we get influenced by them as well. So there's always a tendency to go over the internet and see like what are the interview questions that we ask, right? What should I say when people ask you, tell me about yourself? So those fundamentals also I did go through. That was pretty much it. I did not stress on it too much.
Yeah, I mean, again, very similar to what you guys mentioned for me as well. So the preparation was, I the same. There were some seniors who were already either have done the change or going through it, or and they were helpful in helping with, let's say, writing down the CVs, or let's say getting to know how to approach, let's say, the HRs while you're applying for the position, and getting from there. But those were the basic preparational steps which some of the seniors helped. But then from my side also, I don't think that I prepared myself a lot. Uh, I was working on a product for 3.5 years, and I think I was fairly okay with the product understanding, so I could answer technical questions. One thing which I was thinking more about is some scenario. So basically, the scenario related questions, because in product consulting or product support, you don't get to work on, let's say, a lot of big projects, or let's say a cycle of development of new projects. That was something which was lacking in my profile. So I was prepared that if someone asks me to how will I approach a project development on, let's say, on my product business objects SAP, then I was able to answer that. So those were some of the preparations specifically to my profile, which I did. So it could happen with anyone, that you have in your initial years, you do one thing, but you apply for a job which needs something else. So it doesn't matter if you have not done it, as far as you're able to answer how you'll approach it, if you are given the chance, right? So if you're clear with that, and that you can ask your colleagues, ask your seniors, or friends, and then and get an understanding. And I think it usually works out. It worked out for me, and I think it can work out for others as well. So I think that's good. So what's the next step? How was your first interview, if you remember, or first set of interviews for your first job? Any interesting interview you had?
Yeah. So I'll start. So
Yeah, Anshul.
with when I started giving interviews, it was first round telephonic, then face to face, then HR. Usually that was you know uh, the way it used to happen. Today also it's almost similar. So I was initially I was not very good with telephonic discussions, and face to face wherever I went, I was way more confident, and I could visibly see the difference when I was on a telephonic call and when I was on a face to face interview. And later on, I figured out what was the difference. So I'm more into kind of body language, and if someone asks me, okay, what is your project's architecture look like? Immediately, I want a pen or paper, or a whiteboard and a
Yeah.
marker. But in face to telephonic interviews, I found myself restricted to how to express, how to explain. I'm talking about initially. Now
Yeah.
things are different, but yeah. So first interview, I won't name the company. So I got this call. I started with a telephonic interview, and I ended up having argument with the interviewer. He was asking something else, and it was about some oops concept, and I was saying something different, and I ended up saying no, I know it like this. So that didn't go well, obviously. Then I realized that okay, I have to tone it down and
Yeah.
be more polite, etc. So the company I eventually joined was Pfizer. So we'll come to that, how I chose, etc. But interview experience in Pfizer was fabulous. Face to face, I met my next manager to be, and he asked me like 2 or 3 questions. That's it in half an hour, 45 minutes interview, and it was all logical and scenario based questions. There were no bookish that he was interested in, and I was kind of good with that, so I could answer most of what he was asking. So yeah, interview. Uh, yeah, so one interesting, the final round of the you know Pfizer, when HR round was there, and I was new, as you said, we are not mature.
Yeah.
So when we were discussing about salary, and I already had a couple of offers before that. So negotiation, we never knew how to do it. So that lady asked me, "You already have offer. Then if we offer this, and you're saying you will join, and if someone gives more than that, then what's the guarantee that you'll join us?"
Yeah.
And I very bluntly said, "Yeah, there is no guarantee. I might join the other company if they pay more." And that lady was in shock too. Okay.
Yeah.
So let us talk about it. Eventually, I got the offer. I joined, and that's a different story. But lots of mistakes. During interviews. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's interesting because these days I've heard a lot of people talking about employee driven interviews rather than employer driven interviews. So these days actually these things are quite normal, which you did long back, is which actually the candidates are selecting companies rather than companies selecting the candidates. So this is already happening. So I don't think you at that point we think that it is something wrong, but I don't think that maybe you could have phrased it better, but I don't think your approach was wrong in a way.
Yeah.
What about you, Ankit?
Yeah.
What was your experience with your interview?
So first thing was a long wait, right? So once you decide to leave and you apply in different online portals, it's a long wait till the time any company calls you back. So it was a long wait for me. And it became frustrating as well, right? Because there were certain companies wherein your resume would get rejected. And you don't know why that was, right? Because nobody gives you a reason for that. Then I consulted few of my senior members, my colleagues, not even in the company, but outside wherein I had senior folks. They said that your resume should be targeted to the role that you're applying to. It should not be a generic resume that should be sent across to all the companies. And that is the change that I did. So the type of role that I was applying to, the type of company I was applying to, I used to tweak my resume based on the role, the requirement that was there. And then I started getting calls from there. So the immediate two calls that I got from were the service-based companies. The interview was pretty standard. I think between all the service-based companies, right? You have one technical round, one managerial round, and one HR round. And the technical, they don't expect you to know too much since they know that it's not rocket science that you'll be working there, right? It's simple projects and with a team of 10, 20 folks, you will easily cope up. So the only thing that they are looking for is increasing their headcounts. The first good interview that I had was with Credit Suisse, the company which I am currently with. And that was, I would say, a tough interview, right? I had 6 rounds of interview there. There were 2 telephonic technicals, there were 2 face-to-face technicals, 1 HR and 1 negotiation. I thought I prepared a good lot of things, fundamentals about my project and all. But when I went into the interview, the questions that were asked were unexpected. And it being my first interview with a big firm, a good organization wherein you get people coming in from IITs and also the kind of questions were not simply technical. They were not asking what are classes, what is the OODS concept, right? They were going into aptitudes. They were doing questions on probability, puzzles, and that was not expected for me. But luckily, it went fine. I was able to answer the questions that they had, and I think what worked there was it's not about how you answer the things you know; it's about how you deal with the answers that you don't know. How you go about it, the approach to the problem, whether you are trying to understand the problem or simply just rejecting it. So those kind of attitude helped me clear those rounds. Then came the 5th round, the HR round. I always thought the HR round is simply a negotiation thing, right? You go there, negotiate your salary, and then you get into the job. I was called to the office. I sat in the table with the HR, and I was expecting them to pass on some documents and all. And he started, okay, so what have you done so far? What kind of role you play? And he started interviewing me. I thought, okay, this was not expected. I was not expecting a HR round per se. I thought this was just negotiation. And then we carried on talking about things for the next 1 hour. He made me do certain role plays around how do I manage something in the team. And it was tough. But again, that was also not expected. But all good, all went fine, and I cleared it finally. So that was a pretty exciting experience for me.
Good. I mean that sounds really exciting. For someone who just worked few years in the industry, to have that of a process, it's also exciting to experience. And to share my experience as well, I think it was a bit similar with you, Ankit, because for me as well, first thing was in banking. So for you it was Credit Suisse, mine was Barclays Capital, and pretty similar. Few rounds in the beginning, telephonic, then face to face, and then a lot of things were related to the tools, but there were a lot of things which were not related to it at all. There were a lot of things which were asked, like I was asked about core database concepts, how basically things work, how caching works, or basically how memory works, and things like that. And it was interesting because, those are something I was not expecting, that, how would someone go that deep into database, or let's say just aptitude questions, right? To understand how I could approach a certain thing. And then HR for sure. Yeah. You remember you have discussion with HR and you were just discussing salaries, but here HR is like more checking how you will fit in the organizational culture, and things like that. So it was interesting. Thankfully, I also got through that round, and it was, and yeah, so it was all good, but the interview process was fun. To sum up till here, some good practices around which we have shared is to align your CV with the role, or let's say be sure what you have written on the CV, you know everything about it. Have a very good know-how of what you're doing, rather than, let's say, studying a lot of it. Be prepared for aptitude discussions. Be smart about your approaches about things which you don't know. These are some good suggestions. But let's say, how about you have multiple offers now? Someone is offering more money, some company is bigger, somewhere your role is much nicer. So how would you suggest someone to make that kind of a decision, that which offer they should accept?
So when I chose Pfizer as my first change, the offer I had around 3 to 4 offers, and Pfizer I chose. So at that point of time, with limited experience, limited exposure to interviews and switching, etc. So I just went with company brand. That Pfizer is a great brand to have. Then money they were offering, and third was the people I have interacted with. I mean, the manager, teammates who took my interview. So uh, I got this feeling, okay, I can work with these people. Now, if I have to tell someone how they can go about it today with all that, I'll not change many things, to be honest. First thing is the people you're working with, your manager or hiring manager who had a managerial round with you. You have to connect with that person first and foremost. Second is team that you're joining, or kind of the product and company that you're going to work on. You have to be comfortable with that. Third is not the least, but yeah, the money that is being offered is also very important. So don't compromise on money front for a very big brand, is what I think, right? That is also very important. So 3 things, if I have to suggest today: people that you're going to work with, company, it has to be good, security wise, work wise, product wise, whatever it is. And third is money. So these 3 things, wherever you find these 3 good things, go with that. Is my suggestion.
Cool. What about you, Ankit?
So when I made my first switch, my decision was very easy, right? I had three offers, two from service based organizations, and one from a bank. And the choice was pretty simple, right? I chose the bank.
Yeah.
Money being the factor, the kind of role, the challenging environment that I was looking for was a factor. So it all plays well in those parameters that I had. Now, when I come to think is when I interview people, when I see people leaving their firms, even from my team, when people leave, right? What I would suggest is have an outlook for 2 3 years, and don't just switch for the sake of getting a 30% jump in from your current thing. Because one thing we don't consider, one thing majority of the people don't consider, that you will get a 30% hike immediately, but for the next 2 years the company that you are joining, they will make sure that they compensate those 30% that they are giving you. The first year you'll get average rating, that's pretty standard, right? And you'll not get much hike in the first year. So don't simply go by the money hike. See what kind of role it is, and what are the challenges that are in front of you for the next 3 to 5 years, and whether that will lead you to a next level role or not. If that is not the case, then you should not pick that offer, right? So that's what I feel should be the case.
Correct. I mean, you both gave really, really good points. I mean, back then when I chose the offer, it was not that complicated for me as well, because I also had, like, I think one more offer other than Barclays, which was also from a service-based organization, and I chose Barclays, of course, because of the money and the kind of uh, people I interacted with so far in that process were really good, and it was very promising. So I chose that, and it was easy. But now when I look at it, and I mean. At that point, I chose brand and money, to be honest. Uh, but these are the three important factors in my view. Like, one is the brand, one is and brand. I think also at some extent also considers the kind of environment and the kind of culture, the kind of people it has, where you can work with. And then of course there is a compensation or money element, and third, I consider as well is the role which you're going to do in that particular organization going forward. Specifically now, when we all we look at these three elements, and I feel that in every point in your career you have to balance these three conditions in some way. So at certain point in your career, you might have to choose money at the top and change the sequence a little, and then go by the brand, and then go by the role. At certain point, you need to put role at the top and say, now I need a good role. I'm okay to compromise with money, and they'll come second and third. So this sequence has to be adjusted with what Ankit said, with a good 3 to 5 year of your career plan, and say that, okay, this is where I need to go. In order to achieve that, either my current organization is flexible enough to give me that kind of platform to make changes within the departments, within business units, within the organization. Most of the organizations these days do that. Back in point, I don't think it was that flexible. Now I think it's becoming more and more flexible, where within the organization you can move horizontally as well. So but these three in general is what helps you in choosing or making a decision, right? So that sequence keeps on changing on where you are in your career, and keeping a good outlook of 3 to 5 years helps you in making that decision. So that is also how I look at it. This is a really good discussion I think we had, and we need to continue this discussion. And probably I was thinking about continuing this to the next phase of the career, and when you probably got your first leadership role, where you started leading either projects or, let's say, either people. I think let's discuss that in the next interview.
And to all the listeners, please drop your suggestions in the comment box. If you want us to talk about some other topics, we'll be happy to do that. And a typical thing we can do,
Like and subscribe.
share,
Like and
subscribe
subscribe.
to our channel
Please.
if you want to see more content.